Well, hello and welcome to ILoveGay today. And we are here at Cal Poly Pomona in Los Angeles areas. And we're here with Zane Landin. How are you?
Good, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
Oh, very good. This is going to be fun because we're exploring a different perspective here today. You're a student and you're in the world of marketing, PR. Tell us a little bit about about all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do I start? You know what? I will start with I entered Cal Poly Pomona as a science, technology, and society major,
Yeah.
which in a way is like a science and tech policy major. So very different from what I'm doing right now, even though in PR you could go into science and technology. But at the time I was really interested in becoming a policy analyst in like the realm of ethics. So I was looking at what can we be doing with science technology and what should we not be doing. So it was kind of going into like sci-fi because I was always interested in that, and I think sci-fi is actually a good model for science and engineering ethics that we should be looking at. Anyways, that was recently I actually changed my major to communication. I had a mentor and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was exploring so many different majors at that point and I was kind of confused. And I think a lot of students experience this. And so I had a mentor who, I was doing a little communications internship with her for maybe 2 or 3 hours a week, very, very small, but incredibly impactful for me because I really appreciated the work and she answered every question I had. And oh, and I'll say her name was Ashley Jones. She works at the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences. I mean, the College of Education and Integrative Studies. And so, she really took me under her wing and she has her master's in PR. She has a good background, even in political public relations and a lot of other stuff that she's done. So I came out of the experience, really excited. I was like, I never considered communications to be a field I could go into. I think a lot of people experience that because a lot of people like say, "Oh, I didn't discover really PR until I was in like college or university." There are people that go into PR that have parents or family members, but a lot of people I know that go into this field discover it in university. So again, that definitely applied to me, and I changed my major the next year. I changed the beginning of my fourth year, so I'm going into my sixth year. So I did change very recently, but since then it's been just a positive skyrocket of opportunity. It's been incredibly exciting.
Yeah. I'm guessing that the things that they're teaching you today in the world of PR and communications, and it's of course storytelling, it's probably pretty different than it was maybe if you were studying this 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I have noticed and what I do know about how things used to work with PR and like the traditional PR and you would pitch to journalists is that the scope of media is so different now. And I mean that it's not just traditional news outlets, it's not just traditional magazines. You have podcasts here, you have people doing this here. People can just create their own platform or their own media outlet just with a camera or a podcast. They could just talk and then they can invite guests and then eventually just continues to grow and build this community. And I think, I don't know if that's made PR harder or if it's just different, that now it's not just targeting the Los Angeles Times, but it's targeting all these little podcasts or these different shows. And I think that is the future and that it's very empowering too, that if you have a camera, you can kind of become an influencer if you have a powerful story. And I love that because it's like democratizing
Mhm.
like the media. And I think that's interesting because it's not like you had to know someone to get into a big company or something. Now you can just kind of start your own thing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's clear with all the YouTubers and TikTokers that they can create a name for themselves. I think that's great.
Yeah. I think a lot of the gatekeepers, like you said, LA Times or any of the media organizations, yeah, they've kind of things are different where they're on this. In some ways, they have to play in the same field or playing field as a lot of the influencers, new media podcasters. There's especially when you're looking at them through social media and Twitter. All of a sudden, next thing you know, it's just like how do you differentiate? And I think
Mhm.
I think the rules of a lot of this and how companies are getting the word out are changing dramatically right now.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just go into, yeah, in May of last year,
Yeah.
I was really inspired by the pandemic because I mean, we were 2 months in the pandemic. And so one of the things that I took note on was I kind of felt like the media could have been doing a better job addressing mental health
Mm.
and also creating somewhat a more positive platform. I know the news has never really been that, but I think when we were when we encountered the pandemic and things were so alarming for people, I really think the mainstream media should have done something to just provide something positive or something as a mini escape. So that's what I thought. I thought, you know what? I was taking a class, I was taking copy editing, and our final project, we had to create a publication. And we had to like say, oh, you know, these pieces are going to go in it. So it was very small. We had to like create a little mission statement, a title. So I thought it'd be really cool to do a magazine on positivity and addressing mental health, because I thought that that was something that, again, we were not seeing in the mainstream media. I still don't think we don't. And I really think that there was a mental health pandemic way before this actual COVID-19 pandemic happened. And I think that COVID-19 has definitely accelerated the conversations we needed to have, and not just on race and a lot of other things, but on disability, on mental health. And I think that as things continue to open up, I encourage people to not forget what we've learned and definitely consider that there's intersectionality, that people have kids, people have lives outside of their work. And if we can continue making an accommodating workplace, I think we're going to move in a good progressive era, and I'm excited for that.
Well, with this project you had, is it something folks can see? Is it out there still?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I plan on doing this forever. What's really exciting about the magazine? It's completely digital, so it's online. It's Positive Vibes, positivevibesmag.com, and you know we're on social media. Instagram is our main platform, and I will say the purpose of the magazine is not just. What I will say about the magazine is that we definitely start off in mental health. But one of the things that has been so incredible as it's morphed into different things. So it depended on what communities we got involved in.
Yeah.
So we got involved in like the spirituality community, as in we feature people who do tarot, who is a psychic, who is a medium, who has their own occult shop in Bakersfield. And so it was not purposeful. Like we did not purposely want to be in that community. I'm not saying we didn't want to. I mean, because we were open to anything, but it was not like our plan to even get into that community. So it was so cool when we had people reaching out who are spiritual leaders who wanted to share their story. And again, that's not all we talk about though. I mean, one of the most impactful interviews for me was with Amy White, who talked about her mediumship and her, you know, her ability, but she also talked about suicide and being a mother and a book she wrote. So we try and go into like the deep stuff. That sounds kind of funny, but we kind of go into like just the conversations we're not having.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to try and normalize being vulnerable, you know, because I think that's really hard for people. So, you know, I hope you really enjoy the content. And what's cool about the magazine, it's, you know, it's completely different. I mean, like our content's different across the board. We feature someone who does tarot, and then we feature someone who has a severe stutter, who's an international speaker now, speaking at tons of things. You know, we got to feature someone who like won this international competition, but he feared public speaking his whole life because of his stutter. And it's just very inspiring to see what these people can create from their struggles or challenges. And even though it's called Positive Vibes, we're not here preaching toxic positivity. We're here to show trauma happens. It happens to all of us. But what can we create out of that trauma? Are we going to soak in that depression, or can we heal from it and kind of create something and inspire people? And we recognize that that's not everyone's journey, but you know, one day I hope that people can move forward and inspire others.
Well, it sounds like you're kind of taking this leadership position, but you're in amplifying other people's voices, which is in many ways part of what new media seems to look like today as well.
Yeah, the whole purpose. I mean, for the magazine, we were thinking, oh, we could write some articles, but you know what? At this point, we just feature people. That's it. I mean, for the most part, sometimes we'll do an article here or there, but for the most part, if we do an article, actually someone submitted it, like they want to share their story or something. But you know what? I just think that the magazine is beyond me or the people involved. And I mean that not as in like, I mean beyond like, you know, even though we're writers and stuff, it's beyond our perspective, that there's so much more out there that we want to share. So yeah, we're just so dedicated to amplifying voices, and I do agree. I think the new media is all about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that, you know, you see campaigns where it's like about sharing Black voices, sharing LGBT Black voices. Yeah, that's true. And then sharing. There's so much intersectionality. You can go into like almost anything with this, but I think is becoming really mainstream and important, just to showcase the lived experiences of people who have gone through stuff that may not be in the sight of what we know, or what, I mean, because I'm not going to know what it's like to be a Black individual or a Black person who's LGBTQ. I mean, I'm going to experience, because I'm Latino, LGBTQ, and disabled, but there's beyond that. And so I think it's important we share that, because again, intersectionality is like a universe at this point.
No, I hear you. But the best part is that you're able to take all these skills that you've learned and things that you're still learning, and apply that, because now you're an intern at GM and focused on with their electric cars or electric trucks, I think, right?
Yeah. So I applied for an internship at General Motors in November or October through like the LeGrant Foundation, which, if you haven't heard, that is a organization dedicated to getting students of color in like the media, PR, advertising roles. So they suggested that they believed I would be a good fit for this internship, and I applied. And I did interviews, and eventually I got the role. And it was definitely surreal, because I've definitely worked hard to do a lot of internships, and I've never had the opportunity to intern at such a big, reputable company like General Motors.
Yeah.
And I will just say, like, the work I've been able to do, it's really amazing. I've only been there for 4 weeks, and I feel like I'm making like a huge, like, all company impact on the stuff I've been involved in. And what's really great about General Motors is they have a lot of employee resource groups. They have their GM Plus, which is the LGBTQ one. They have GM Able, which is their disability one, which I did join GM Able, and I've been able to get involved in disability pride stuff. And I love that you talk about electrification, because one of the most spectacular things about this internship was, like, the team I work for, they advocated for me to get a Bolt.
Yeah.
So I had that last week. So from Tuesday to Friday, they lent me a Bolt EV for a week, and I didn't want to take it back. That's all I'm gonna say.
I know those things are. I once upon a time I even had a Prius, but I've tested. I haven't been in a Tesla yet, but I have tested a few of these other ones like that, and I know it's not what folks think. They think they're going to be kind of just these weak little electric cars, kind of like a golf cart. And oh no, they're amazing.
And they're definitely peaceful. I mean, they drive really well, and I'll say they're peaceful because I remember driving the car back, and me and my sister were in the car, and we were talking. And I'm like, "Do you hear that? I don't hear anything." It was so interesting to be on the freeway and not hear anything. I mean, of course I hear the cars, but like, like sometimes when you're in like one of those large vehicles, it's very noisy and you can hear the engine. And so it was interesting that I was like kind of quiet. It was kind of nice.
Well, I'm excited to see where all this goes, and it's motivating, I think, for all of us to see that GM is tapping into folks such as yourself, and they're also tapping into and looking into the world of the modern world of storytelling, and trying to get the word out in ways that maybe are not as traditional as it used to be. So I think I'm excited to see where all this goes over the next few months and years.
And I was told by General Motors employees that the time that they've been at the company, this is the time to be working for them, that GM is moving in a really good direction. And I see that. And I think also the pandemic has transformed a lot of communities and organizations to the point where organizations are taking note of this, and they are actually implementing change. And there are companies that are still doing the performative activism where they just change their logo to a rainbow, when there could be a lot more done, instead of that. And I think I challenge people listening, or I just challenge people who are LGBTQ or whatever it is that their identities are in this space, and try and challenge it. You don't know where you're going to end up. And sometimes you can feel the culture, but for wherever I am, I know that I'm always going to be an advocate for LGBTQ and disabled of color voices. I know it's like a lot, but I'm always going to be, pushing and advocating for that. It really depends on where you work. Sometimes they may not be understanding of that. And I think that really kind of shows who you are, because at that point, maybe that's not the place for you then. But then it's hard to say, because sometimes people need to absolutely have to have that job because that's all they have so far. But for the people that are really deciding things and figuring things out, that may not be the place for you. And sometimes it's exhausting to always be advocating, especially I'll say because I'm an advocate for disability, it can be exhausting because like it's there is very little there's a lot of advocacy, but it's not the mainstream that I wish it would be. Yeah. And so sometimes it can get, it can be kind of frustrating, and when a lot of people don't understand the vision of disability, and that it's beyond the diagnosis or the medical status. It's, it's a culture, it's a way of living, it's just a perspective. And I think that's interesting. So I love all that.
No, this is great. I'm glad you were able to take a few moments of your time and just kind of share some of your story with our audience, because like I said, it's a unique perspective, and not one that we often explore here. So I look forward to being able to connect with you in the real world someday here.
Of course, thanks, Matt. Anything I can do to help. Thank you again for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, great to meet you here, and we'll see you soon.
Yay, thank you.
So good.